Now, in my last movie, having a little teaser of this thing. Been looking at it and looked really good when you take this junk off. I've been thinking about this a lot, and the main thing I want to do is make this a functioning Nerf gun, actually firing. To that end, I'm going to use this loader unit from the Hyperfire, position it above the magazine, and have that wired up to a battery box and a trigger in the front of the blaster here. However, already found my first problem is that this area, the magazine, is not going to fit in here really well because of this cutout. So I've got to cut out this and have that sticking out the top, which is a problem because I've got this on top of it. But I thought I might be able to get around that by actually turning the whole gun upside down, the whole blaster upside down, and putting that in there. All right. So if that sits roughly about there, the battery box, the pusher, should stay inside that. And also I've already got a nice built-in sort of partial scope mount. Just to maximise parts, cut it along here, so that goes in the back, and pistol grip goes in the front. Now, cut the magazine well out, and modified the muzzle so it actually fits around there like that. What I've got to do is mount this here in relation to the Wacko magazine, so that'll be in the right place for those tiny little tabs to pick up the round and push it through. And I'm hoping, well I'm pretty sure, as that gets pushed through, before the tab finish pushing it, it's going to catch the wheels. The chief reason for doing this is to show you that this all needs to be put together before I can even think about putting it in here and cutting bits out and, you know, doing all that sort of stuff. Right, now, done a lot of grinding and cutting and sanding. Now, let's take this step by step, shall we? First, the barrel, cut down greatly, grinded bits out, cut out a section, the square section there, cut out so this section fits in there like that. Now, that goes in there, and that goes in there like that. Let's go in the camera, yep. So, and I've cut out a little section here so that pin can go in there. Other than that, everything seems to work fine. That goes in there like that. It's even got these little grooves on the tabs here on the other side that fit into the body of the blaster. So when I can get it in, yes, but it's quite a tight fit until I do that extra grinding. So that's where I'm at. And once that's done, we actually work on cutting this to fit in there, about there. So it's going to look something like that. A little bit Terminator-like with the magazine right at the back, but it won't matter. And judging from what I've seen, I might even use this curve here to mate in with this curve here and keep it in the same sort of feeling, whatever you want to call it, spacing. But I just noticed that's going to stick out the top, so what I'm going to have to do is drop that down a lot. I was actually thinking of using this slot here, which is a slide, to slot it in somewhere along the bottom there, maybe on the bottom of that, which probably looks like it will work. Yes, it'll give me the room for that above it, because that's got to be mounted down about there. Oops, like that I should say. And that'll give me room for the motor behind it, and we should be good to go. So I'll get on with that and get back to you. Bye. Okay guys, there we go. We have our firewheels in. Nice and level. Haven't glued anything yet, but it's not necessary at the moment. So that part's done. Now I'm looking at putting this ledge on to that ledge there. So what I'm going to do is just get my little scroll saw and cut out just that recess just there for the moment. I think the simple thing is to measure the width of that and work out how much space I've got either side. So I'll take it from there. Alright, talk to you soon. Okay guys, my trusty veneer caliper tells me that the space distance from that notch to that notch is 38.03 millimeters, so 38 mil. So that means half of that distance on that yellow piece is about 19 mil. 19 mil in from there, so 19 is right on the edge there, but what I want to do is hook it onto this bit, because this ledge will be long enough all the way along. Silly mistake, I was looking at the wrong screw hole. I don't want to keep that screw hole there, I want to keep that one right back at the corner. So the whole thing is going to sit in on that ledge, most of that ledge, at about that position. And I'll decide what to do about this later. So what I'm just going to do is mark where that actually fits with the texture, just roughly. So there, I have my cut mark. So along there and up there. So it's going to be cut out. I'm going to just cut out that bit up to that ledge and see how we go from there. And what I can do with that sticking in, I can actually cut a corresponding slot in the side of the body that it sits in, so it'll actually be a little bit of a hole. So I'm going to get on with that and get back to you. Right, there we have it. Still a bit loose. It's as you can see, the two shells of the, or whatever it's called, the Thunderhawk, joined together properly. Alright, so I've got to position this yellow bit in, and I'll more than likely do that with screws, just straight through, get it in position, then do all the putting around the edges, so when I pull the two halves it stays in the same place, and we're ready to go. Alright guys, welcome back. Now as you can see, got the Nerf retaliator base, whatever it is, magazine well in there. It's very loose, but that's not an issue at the moment. Today's work is getting the conveyor belt from the Hyperfire in there, in position, and it should be relatively easy. Despite having looked all over the web for even a single image showing the relationship of the magazine to the belt, the conveyor belt, I couldn't find anything. But I did find something from a guy called Halojens that how he solved the problem. He had a problem feeding. It was just to attach a little bit of plastic to each one of the tabs so it sticks down a bit more, and you might have to grind out a bit of plastic in there. So I've got to work out how to put this in here that it's going to pick up the rounds, and I'm thinking probably, where's the round? Alright, so obviously that tab has to go down far enough to actually pick up the round, so it's going to have to be virtually right on top of the magazine. Let's just take that out there. So it's going to literally have to be like that so it picks it up. Hang on, let me move that through there. Okay, so it's sitting there like that. Yeah. So that's going to be relatively easy because all I have to do is cut a section out of here that this can sit in. I'm going to have to maybe take a bit off the top of here, this bottom bit, just to clear these guide horns, or maybe even take a little bit off the top of the guide horns, probably both. But it looks like really what I'm going to have to do is probably measure that distance from either shoulder and clear it out from there. Now that's going to be annoying because I'm taking out, oh no, I'm not taking out a screw hole, I'm just taking out a locating pin. Right, so that's not a bad idea. Okay, so I'll get started on that, try to fit it in like that, and gradually work my way down to get it to actually work. And then I've got to fit the motor that drives this, which fits in this thing, which I'm pretty sure I should be able to fit there somehow. I believe in the Hyperfire it's on some sort of angle like that. So funky, what do you call it, a worm gear on it. So I can probably position it anywhere I can make it work. So straight back, maybe even vertically. So that's not an issue, I don't think. work on getting this fitted, and I'll get back to you. Right guys, well that took about half an hour. So I've got the magazine positioned in the right spot. The little cog goes around. I've got to fit the motor in there somehow, and that's going to be problematic. I can see it now, but it'll probably have to be the same sort of upward angle as on the Hyperfire. I did have a problem where it wouldn't go around, and I thought I'd have to raise the whole thing because it was jammed against the mag, but it turned out it was just rubbing against one corner of the mag right there, as you can see. So I'll just ground that off, and if I do 2 or 3 mags for this, I'll just do the same to each one. So that's that step. Next is to mount the motor in there and get it working. So when I've got that done, I'll get back to you. Alright guys, I'm going to try and do this without getting my big fat fingers in the way. So there's my little motor. I've cut off the top housing here, cut off a bit of this. I might even have to get rid of that actual screw mount and move one down lower. But that's going to sit something like that. Let's try doing it this way. Okay. I'm hoping you can see the cog going around. That's about all you can see. But as you can see, once I get it in place and mounted properly, it will work. And just to show you what I've done. Alright, so taking off the screws. So as you can see, I didn't cut off these pins because I drilled holes in the side housings of the body. They fit through. And it's intentionally loose so I can position it. Cut off the front of this because normally it goes straight down. Left enough so it's still a solid block. So that fits in quite nicely like that. Directly above the magazine well and the chute. The container chute I've just dremeled just a tiny little bit out so it fits either side of that. Really nice. So that helps keep it in alignment. Right, so and that goes in there. Fits in there, and that goes on top like that. Right, so when it's all screwed down, which I'm not going to bother with, put a bullet in the magazine, or a foam dart in the blaster thing, whatever you want to call it. You can see there, it's quite good, and it just chugs along and pushes it out. So with the wheels will be just here, this thing, like that. So it'll grab it, throw it along the body, and I'm even thinking of using the wheels out of this. I think it's what they call it, a stampede or something, I can't remember. Barricade, right, whatever. And chucking that up at the front, so the darts get thrown from the front set of spinners, the back set of spinner wheels to the front set, and shot out. Could be fun, be interesting. Now the Hyperfire itself is a 6-volt gun. I'm saying that simply from the size of the battery box. I could be wrong, but I was running, as you can see, 9 volts, and it was running pretty fast, so I'll probably work out a 9-volt system. So that's where we're at. We've got our I suppose you'd call it, receiver and mechanism almost done. So that's it for today. Talk to you again tomorrow. Bye guys.